מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא יחסר, בנותיך יביצני, על מי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי ישובב, ינחני במגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות, לא ירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, דשנת בשם ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבת בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
We gather here today to share words of praise, of honor, of gratitude, and of love, as we recall with great affection a beloved husband, a beloved father, a beloved grandfather, Papa, a beloved son and beloved brother, a beloved uncle, lawyer, colleague, mentor, a beloved golf partner and shul boy motorcyclist, community leader and friend, Stephen Wasserman. Our beloved Steve has departed from this world, leaving us with a very good name at the age of just 68. Too young, too soon. With so many years ahead, with another grandchild, Kinahara, on the way, with more golf rounds to play, more roads for that motorcycle to journey on, more adventures with Joni to look forward to, more time with family and with each one of us. It isn't fair. And yet who could argue that Steve lived life to the fullest? He got more out of his 68 years than anyone else could. Today, we offer our deepest condolences to his family, to his beloved wife Joni, his heart and his soul, the love of his life, his partner in all ways. 45 years of marriage, 50 years together, united. He leaves the apples of his eye, his children, Matthew and Lori and Dana and Paul, the diamonds in his crown, his grandchildren, Madeline, Caleb, Raphael, and Paulie, his brother Mark and sister-in-law Lee, sister Nancy, brother-in-law John, nieces, nephews, and each one of us. Steve now joins his beloved parents of blessed memory, Milton and Morley. He joins his in-laws, and most especially Joni's mother, Jean, who became a second mother to him, and all those who have gone before in heaven. We have two very special tributes today. First, I'd like to call upon Steve's son, Matt.
Do I have to wear this thing? Rabbi stole some of my thunder. Oh my God. I'm going to try not to swear, I promise, but it is not going to be easy. I think first and foremost, as all of you know, or maybe you don't, my dad was born in the greatest city in America, this one. His parents, Milton and Morley, they owned a sign shop right here down the road. And he met my mom when they were just teenagers. My mom was only 17. They married soon thereafter and spent 50 years together. They both graduated University of Cincinnati and then my dad went on to law school at Cleveland Marshall. He had a 40-plus year legal career where he took great pride in the work itself and made a concerted effort and regular effort to train and mentor young lawyers. He was the first to go to professional school in my family. I followed his lead. Everyone called him Was. Now everyone calls me Was. He loved my sister Dana with every piece of his body and soul. Naturally, as a person, you always believe there will be another day, another moment, another opportunity to talk and share memories or just sit and be together. We didn't have enough of those opportunities in the past several years, so I want to take this time to say thank you. Thank you for the memories, some of which I'll share today. Thank you for the lessons, and thank you for being you. My father taught me about Cleveland sports, a lifelong obsession no matter what happens or how poorly they play. I will do my best to instill and drill, physically if I have to, the same love of Cleveland sports into my children. And man, Dad, you would love these Cavs. I know you will miss the Brownies, and I will always remember our walks to the stadium from the law firm parking lot. My dad taught me how to love golf. We had the blessing of Lake Forest Country Club and Oakwood Country Club growing up. I know some of you out here know about the Schwitz. He taught me from a young age at 13 years old how to smoke a cigar and eat a steak. My father taught me the meaning and power of lifelong relationships as exhibited in this room and I'm sure on the Zoom. As my brother-in-law reminded me yesterday, my father always had a guy for everything. If you needed something, you'd call him and he could find you what you needed. My parents provided Dana and I with social and educational opportunities that are often taken for granted. Ski trips, Yellowstone National Park, and many other vacations while growing up. As I was reminded yesterday, my sister went to Hawken. And it's kind of funny, my parents, because I was so well behaved, wanted to send me to Hawken. But when I got to do the entrance exam, I intentionally failed it because there was no way I was going to that school. So thanks for letting me stay at Orange. Thank you for teaching me independence at a young age, for pushing me to learn the value of hard work. Thank you for taking me to Israel at Bar Mitzvah, giving me the opportunity to meet my wife. Thank you for singing David Bowie while running around the room like a maniac at my Bar Mitzvah. There's this little sidebar story that happened this morning. I got a text from a friend of mine that I ride the Peloton with, and she says, I rode this ride for you for one of my favorite coaches. And it was a David Bowie ride, which, I don't know, maybe that's ironic. She didn't have any clue. And it reminded me that my dad loved David Bowie so much he named the dog after it. Thank you for teaching me to drive and to sometimes do so recklessly, just like you did. Thank you for always welcoming my friends into the house, even though we rarely, if ever, behaved. My father loved the frat house almost as much as I did. He also loved keg stands. But what I think he loved the most about Indiana when I was there was the Stingers at Kilroy's. Kilroy's was a bar on Kirkwood, and a stinger is a shot of tequila, but the way you have to do it is you got to snort the salt off the bar, Then you got to take the shot of tequila and spray the lime in your eye. And I'll never forget, a friend of mine reminded me of it this week. My dad laughing, and the whole bar hearing the laughter after we did the stingers. I just hope that people find my laugh half as infectious as nearly everyone found his to be. Many, many people have commented how his laugh would fill a room. He often laughed so hard he would cry. Thank you for setting the example for why the law degree has such great value. I watched you give people a voice in a forum where they would not otherwise. You showed me the power and duty to give back to your community using the degree, always taking phone calls and meetings with friends and family and others to provide free legal advice and counsel. Thank you for being the best man in my wedding. Thank you for traveling on multiple father-son golf trips together, some of my fondest memories together as an adult. Thank you for helping me see the importance of family, to lean in and truly appreciate my wife and her parents, and to understand and appreciate my good fortune for marrying into such a warm and unconditional family. Thank you for treating my grandmother like your own mom, constantly concerned and advocating for her best interests as she aged. My grandmother was like a mom to you, and you were a son to her after you lost your own before I was born. Thank you for unconditionally loving my mother, helping her meet her dreams and supporting her through good and bad. And thank you for being the person that you were to so many others. People have uniformly said how warm and welcoming and joyful you were. People valued their relationship with you. Your passing has been and will continue to be felt by so many. But now you are in heaven, reunited with your parents, grandparents, and unfortunately a few very close friends. They will give you the support needed so you can watch over us as we grow old. Dad, I made a lot of mistakes in our relationship. I wish we had more time to make new memories together. And I wish there was more time for you to spend with your grandchildren. They loved you. 68 is just too young. But I'm grateful for the memories we shared. And I'm blessed for the man that I have become, in part because of your influence. Your wife, children, grandchildren, and family will miss you and love you forever. I love you, Dad.
Our second tribute today will be given by Stephen Lesser, childhood friend and colleague in law and in love.
Once upon a time, probably more than 50 years ago, I find myself in a tiny little house not too far from here on Bainbridge Road. In the driveway, it's a thin driveway, there's a yellow station wagon that says Millmore signs on the side of it and a caricature of Milt and Morley. I'm in the back room of this house, a little den, and I'm standing there with a group of people. And in the middle is a pudgy little guy, half naked, clutching a pen, dancing around the room, singing a Jackson 5 medley. Now, I will tell you that I've never seen anything like it, and I know I never will again. And from that moment forward, things didn't change much with my friend Was. He was always the entertainer. Whenever you were with him, no matter what the activity was, whether you were watching a game, whether you were studying, whether you were in a bar, it didn't matter what you were doing. When you were with him, he made things seem better, more incredible, more wonderful than they actually were. And even though that you knew that, you went with it. You know why? Because he did make it more fun. He made it more enjoyable. He was probably the most predictable and unpredictable person I have ever met. Predictable, and Matt talked about it, is that he made friends very easily. In fact, it was intoxicating to be around Was. And the funny thing is, when you introduced him to your friends, I don't know how it happened, but they became his friends. And everybody had a nickname. There was Big Red, Rooster, T, Helmet Head. Mine was Krusty. I don't know where that came from. But what he would do is that when he would call, and by the way, he would call a lot, he would scream that nickname into the phone. If you were in a room, he would call you out in a room, across the room. He would yell your name. And you know what? It made you feel special. And that's what Steve was all about. He made everybody feel special. He took friendship very, very seriously. Very seriously. And he would call and he would check in constantly, all the time. He found every excuse to celebrate anything. Any birthday, any bar mitzvah, any wedding, anything, he was there. Because he thought it was important to do that. And that's who he was. He was also extremely unpredictable, this guy. You never knew what Steve was going to do next. I remember he was a year ahead of me in law school, and I had my first class with Steve Wasserman, probably my second year of law school. And it was about this time of year. It was the first class of the semester, and it was criminal procedure. And the professor came in, and he said, okay, first case. He looks around, he says, Mr. Wasserman. And I said, boy, this is going to be really good. So Steve is up in the rafters someplace, and I'm down further, and I look up. And he looks at the professor, and he says, I'll pass. And the professor said to him, Mr. Wasserman, is it that you're not prepared today? He goes, it's just too cold out. Now, I'd be horrified to do something like that, but he did. And what happened was the professor just stopped, started cracking up. The whole class started laughing, and then he was on to something else. For those of you who heard about his many ski trips, you know, Steve was fearless. I skied with him many, many times. And what would typically happen would be we would go down a trail, and then he'd stop, and he'd look over, and there was a deep decline into the woods. And he'd look at me and goes, Steve, let's hop in the woods. And I'd look at him, I go, you're out of your mind. I'm not going down there. And I didn't think he would go either, but there he went. He goes, later, and he's down. So I go ahead and ski around, wait for him to come out. And he was wearing a purple ski jump suit. And I would see people come out, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, no Steve, no Steve, no Steve. I'd say, have you seen a guy in a purple? No. Have you seen a guy? No. All of a sudden, about a half hour later, here comes this guy steaming down this path. He's not wearing purple because it's covered with snow, okay? And he comes up to me, and there's snow in his hair, in his beard. His goggles are iced over. He's huffing and puffing. There's not anywhere on your ski suit that you could see purple. And I said to him, Steve, are you okay? How was it? It must have been rough out there. He goes, Steve, it was fabulous. I can't believe you didn't go. And then he skied off. And that's the way Steve was. He also had one unique quality that I've never seen in anyone, is that it was impossible to be mad at him. Impossible to be mad at Steve Wasserman. You just couldn't do it. One time we were in we had a softball team, Millmore Signs, and Steve played third base, I played shortstop, and Steve was having a very, very bad day. I mean, a very bad day. He made 2 errors, and when he did, people were screaming at him, yelling at him. And so we're in the last inning of this game, and there's a guy on first, a guy on second, and the ball gets hit to Steve, and it hits his shoe, and it bounces out of his mitt, and it's standing right in front of him, and the guy's coming from second to third. He could pick it up and throw him out. All of a sudden, people start screaming at him. Steve looks around, he takes the ball, and he throws it out in left field. We end the inning. People are furious with him. We come back to the bench. 10 minutes later, everybody's laughing about it because you just couldn't stay mad with him. And it was just one of those moments in time. And in all the years I played those kinds of sports, I've never done anything like that. Wouldn't have to think about it, but Steve would. And Steve just loved to have fun. And he just transformed every single issue into something that you would have a lasting memory of. And that is what Steve Wasserman was all about. He really cherished life. He lived it his way. And we should all be proud of him, of the life that he lived. Somebody once told me that in order to have a great life, you need three things. And it's very simple. And Steve nailed them all. Number one, something to do. Well, he always had something to do. He gave back to his community. He gave back to his law school. He gave back to his faith. He was riding his motorcycle. He was playing golf. He always had something to do. Number two, something to look forward to. Has anybody here ever called him up where he wasn't planning on doing something? Planning a trip, going to see his children, going to see his grandchildren, anything? Always, always. And finally, the most important one, that sometimes it eludes some of us, someone to love. Well, he certainly didn't have that problem. Because as you heard from Matt, he knew Joni for almost 50 years, and he worshiped the ground she walked on. He worshiped her. He had his son, Matthew Charles, who became a lawyer. He was so proud of you, Matt. And, of course, none of the Wasserman children were immune from the nicknames either. His baby, Dana, as he would recall her constantly. He was so proud of you. And so he had so much joy in his heart. And I think that today, when we're thinking about all this, that I think what Steve would want you to do, because I know that many of you have similar kinds of memories of him, is that when we walk out today, and maybe we have a day in the future where things are not going great for us, maybe you take that experience with Steve, grab hold of it, and then some way, somehow, by thinking about that, Steve's going to make you feel better.
Thank you, Matt and Steve. The rabbis say that words that come from the heart enter our hearts. You truly brought Steve, into our hearts. And I think that each one of us here, all those watching online, whether it's now in real time or those who will be watching over the next few days and weeks, we can each share all the lessons that Steve taught us, all the gifts that he gave to us, and the legacy of Steve that will continue. Steve was good. That's plain and simple. He was a good guy. He was a mensch. Kind and caring, a good neshama. He had a good soul. A man who lived with integrity and sincerity. He was genuine, honest, and true. True to himself and true to each one of us. A loyal friend who was driven and direct, strong and tough, you could say stubborn, a tenacity that he relied on during these last few years. Steve truly cared. He exuded warmth. His empathy drew others to him. He, of course, was a dog lover. Chief was his true companion. He was fun and passionate, the life of the party. He lived by the motto, work hard and play hard. A daredevil. He had a true zest for life. You already heard how his laugh was legendary. When he smiled, he lit up the room. He exuded positivity and optimism, always looking forward, never backward. A man who valued trust and respect above all else. He was a fighter who wouldn't let anything slow him down. He lived for family, had so much pride and nachas in you, and Matt and Dana, your families and your accomplishments. He loved the grandkids, cherished them so much. And he loved each and every one of you who were like family. And when I met with Joni, Dana, and Matt yesterday, you shared these words with me, quote, "He was the light of our life. He taught us how to persevere through adversity and how to appreciate life and live with gratitude." In our Torah reading cycle at synagogue, last Shabbat, we read the Ten Commandments. These are the guiding ethical principles which guide our lives. And tomorrow morning, we'll read Parshat Mishpatim, which is considered the fine print of the law code. Law after law, which teach us how to live with ethics and integrity, how to live in community and to be there for each other. This is Steve's Parsha, a man who had such a strong ethical compass, who lived by the rule to always take the high road, to always be the better person. You heard how much he loved classic rock, David Bowie, Van Morrison, and Bruce Springsteen. The Boss was his favorite, and the words of the Boss, Steve has come back to his hometown. Matt shared with you how he was born and raised a Clevelander on Bainbridge Road in Cleveland Heights, graduating from Heights High in 1971. Joni, you shared the story of how you met Steve. Another boy had a crush on you in college and brought you to his dorm. And there you met a bunch of the other dorm mates that he had in Cincinnati, and your eyes locked on a certain someone. He had long hair, a big mustache. He was wearing denim overalls. You were smitten, and it was Steve. Love at first sight, and the rest is history. He came home to go to Cleveland Marshall really because his mother was very ill. He came and lived at home and cared for her while he was studying at Cleveland Marshall. And you were married on a very special day. It was actually a national celebration, July 4th, 1976, the bicentennial. And you began life on Bushnell and University Heights, and then raising Matt and Dana in Pepper Pike. Your marriage was always based on love and understanding, partnership, making each other better together. Joni, you shared that from the first day that you were enamored with Steve. True love. We could all see that it was true love for the two of you. You each married your best friends. You told me that Steve was your protector. He always watched over you and watched out for you. And yet in doing so, it helped you grow more independent, more into yourself. You had a very special relationship, always there for each other, loving each other unconditionally, partners in everything, pushing each other to be better, to be more involved in community, to give back, in your words, to spread ourselves. Each taking on different organizations and the Jewish and general community to support and take leadership roles after your study at the Wexner Institute, the Federation and the JCC, JNF and B'nai Yeshurun, and Cleveland Marshall. Steve's involvement focused at the JCC, where he helped oversee the construction of the new Beechwood campus and the move from Heights, and at Cleveland Marshall, working on building the scholarship programs, mentoring young lawyers, taking on pro bono cases in his own legal work. And as a lifelong Cleveland sports fan, as Matt said, he had tickets to the Browns, which he would usually give to the Boys and Girls Clubs to share that love of Cleveland sports. The best father, incredibly proud. He loved you unconditionally, taught you the value of education. He made you pay for grad school on your own, both of you, teaching you to take personal pride, accountability, ownership, independence, and investment in yourself. I'll just say, Matt, I think it's clear, and I think Steve said this about you too, that you emulate your father. You carry on his legacy, not only as a lawyer, not only in your strength and caring, not only how you are protective of family, a great father and a husband in so many more ways. And Dana, your dad loved you so much. You were incredibly close. You were his everything. You confided that whatever your father asked of you, you always said yes, except when he asked you to play golf with him. You told me that your father was your teacher and your guide. He taught you how to be confident in the choices that you make in life. He taught you to have a strong work ethic, how to live life to the fullest, and how to be a good parent, a good mother to Polly and the little one on the way. He was the best papa to Madeline and Caleb and Raphael and Polly. He loved his grandchildren so much. Even though this pandemic limited the amount of time together in person, those FaceTimes, calls, visits always lifted Papa's spirits and built a bond between grandfather and grandchildren that will never be forgotten. In our Jewish tradition, we don't have saints. However, we do have guideposts by which to live. And the rabbis in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Sages, teach us how to live our best lives. And I think Steve lived by those guideposts. The rabbis say, Eze mechubad, who is an honored and respected person? Their answer is one who gives respect to others. Steve lived by the principle of honoring others, whether it was his lifelong childhood friends, who he nurtured all the way, or the growing list of friends he made everywhere he was, including those last few years in Arizona. The rabbis say again, Ezehu chacham, who is a wise person? The rabbis answer, it's one who learns from every person and every interaction. Steve lived that way, always open, engaging, and listening, attentive to every person he met. Wise in his legal work and the counsel that he gave, he always figured out the best way to resolve a crisis, always there to help anyone. His wisdom extended past his professional work. He was wise in his approach to life and relationships, always giving back with humility, with kindness, and humor. The rabbis say, Ezehu Hashir, who is a wealthy person? They say a person who was happy with his lot. That was our Steve, who lived with gratitude and appreciation for his life. And the last statement is, Ezehu Gibor, who is strong and mighty, who is a hero? Steve had an incredible fortitude, a perseverance and resilience that could not be matched. He fought for another day, over and over again. Another l'chaim, more time with all of you that he loved so much. And he went through so much, all those treatments and procedures, hospital stays and rehab. He lived an incredible and inspiring life, and he didn't do it alone. He had you, his team, his friends, his family, Joni by his side, and the kids through everything. He was our hero, our inspiration. Today we say goodbye to one of the best, a man who lived life the right way, who made the most of every day, who lived life to the fullest, or as Joni, you told me, he did what he could with the days that he had, a man who worked hard, played hard, and loved all. Steve will be missed by family and friends. He's returned home. He's suffering no more. His name will always bring blessings, and we say, Amen. Please rise as Kenner Schiffman recites the memorial prayer.
El male rachamim, shochein b'meramim, hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, את נשמת ישראל במרדכי ומנדל, שהלך לעולמו, בגן עדן, תהי מנוחתו. Ahanam Bal Harachamim Astirei Ubesede Knafecha Leolamim Utsaror Mitzror Achaim Nishmato Adonai Hunachalatom V'yanuach B'Shalom Al נשכבו ונאמר אמן.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of our beloved Yisrael, Stephen Wasserman, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May he merit the reward for living a life filled with righteousness, kindness, and love. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life, and may he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. Interment will follow at Zion Memorial Park. Due to the pandemic, the family will be observing only private Shiva and ask that you please respect their requests. Friends who wish to contribute in Steve's memory may do so to JNF, Jewish National Fund, to our congregation, B'nai Yeshurun Congregation, or to the Cleveland State University Law School Alumni Association Scholarship Fund.
Friends, please, if you're going to the cemetery, we're going to ask you to go immediately to your cars, put on your lights and your hazard lights. If you're not going to the cemetery, we're going to ask you also to go immediately to your cars, because the family does not want people staying out in this cold. So please.
Just for him to be. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
I will come over here. You're 2 seconds from me.
I know.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
I don't do anything. I'm home.
I have lots of work to do. It's my thing.
That
Your
works.
thing.